and welcome to Lunchtime Coaching. Thank you for joining us today. Today I've got a very special guest who's joining us all the way from across the planet. And when I made this appointment, because connection's so easy, I forgot that it's 10 hours in advance. So thank you for joining us. She's a professional speaker, presentation coach, and mentor, exceptional voice artist, and in my opinion, just one of the nicest people I have ever met and know. So please welcome Bonita Nuttall. How are you doing?
Oh, Kevin, thank you so much. What a beautiful, beautiful introduction. Can you not just come move here and do that every time for me, please?
Absolutely.
Absolutely lovely to be here. Thank you so much. And so good to see you again.
Thank you, and thanks for joining us. Thanks for wanting to be on the lunchtime coaching with me. There's so much that I could ask. We don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to kick it off straight away. Given the background that you present on camera and you're a storyteller, with the COVID that we're stuck in at the moment, don't you want to share more of what you're doing and how you're doing it, and how COVID's really affecting what you do?
Kevin, such a big question, but so important as well. And I think, it's not just affecting me. I think it's affected every single person around the world in some way or another, obviously. But specifically all of us that have been forced to work remotely. And for some of us, that's something that we've been doing, and we've had that level of flexibility, I think. But for a lot more organizations around the world, people have literally been forced to go remote, work at home and set up an office space and that sort of thing. For me, I was doing presentation coaching and mentoring before COVID hit, as well as professional speaking. And so, as you can imagine, all live events were just completely shut down. And so all my work, literally, when we went into lockdown, which is quite early on, all of my coaching clients were like, sorry, we're going to cancel. We're canceling all the events. We just cancel. I was like, what just happened? So, of course, I think, like most other people, though, I think COVID has provided us with a really special gift and a special opportunity to go back to the drawing board and to go and have a look at fine-tuning and rethinking, reimagining, and almost reinventing what it is that we're doing. And it's almost, I think it was Microsoft said that what we accomplished in 2 months probably would have taken us 2 years in terms of our digital transformation. So I think, big ups to everybody for taking that giant leap. And so for me, I think my storytelling has just taken on a new level, because first of all, I think every single one of us has a story. I think post-COVID, everyone's going to have an even bigger story. and so moving from doing live events to moving everything online and to digital platforms, that's kind of the space I'm starting to work in now. So getting into my own storytelling and my own content creation, but also helping others to do the same. Helping people to set up their office spaces at home, to be able to connect on camera, to be able to set themselves up with lighting and sound, and how do we maneuver all the moving parts so that we can actually still somehow maintain that connection and that humanness that I think is so important, and that I think a lot of people thought we were going to lose because of COVID.
I mean, it's so beautiful that you share that, because I think it's exactly what's happened. My business has gone from doing training with people live and to like, okay, so now what? And I literally have taken everything online, and hence why I'm doing the actual lunchtime coaching series, because I want to connect with people. I want people to know, what we do. But essentially, it's also just to add some value, because I think so many people are stuck. So many people are looking for a bit of answers to what's next and what to do now. One of the things that some of the information you sent me that's sort of sparking a question here is the human connection. So I think, because it's camera and because it's a lot of people are nervous for camera. I mean, I get nervous for camera every single time I do it, So how do we retain a bit of human connection? Because it's camera, so how do we do that? I mean, you've been doing it for so many years. How do you do that?
Great question, Kevin. I think that's really, really important. So I love this. There's this advertisement of the masterclasses, and Helen Mirren, it's a wide shot of the stage, and Helen Mirren walks onto stage, and she walks and literally goes and sits down in the chair, and she looks and she says, I've done something that is probably one of the most difficult things that every single person who steps on stage has got to learn. That is how to walk naturally, just how to walk. And the exact same is it's the truth for that, as well as when we're getting onto camera. So it's almost like all of the problems I think that exist in terms of our connecting through the lens, connecting with other people, they all start up here. Because I'm looking at a mobile phone now. If I were to, first of all, if I were to think of all the people that are going to be listening to this and watching this, and I start making up stories about what people are going to tell me or say about me, these people are going to be judging me because of this, and maybe they don't like my picture, or they don't like this or that. Everyone's going to be judging me anyway. So one of the things that I have always done for myself as a presenter, as an investigative journalist, whenever I've gone on camera, is I focus on one person at a time. And if there are a bunch of people, I focus on the people that I know really well and that I have already connected with. When we become sort of meta, we go meta to ourselves, and we sit like sort of up here, and we're looking at ourselves sort of from a different set of eyes, going, what does my voice sound like? What do my hands sound like? And I wonder if I'm going to make mistakes, or if I'm sound stupid, or if I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And the list goes on of all of these things.
Yeah.
That's when I'm no longer being present with you. That's when I'm actually stepping into all the storytelling in my head, and I'm probably going to miss out on what they were saying to me in the first place. So one of the ways to do that is to make sure that I get grounded before I get on camera. And one of the ways to do that is breathing deeply. I know it sounds really simple, and most people probably don't have time to start breathing, but even if it's just 3 deep breaths to get grounded and feel my feet on the ground, feel the clothes on my body, have a look at where I'm at, and just take in my surroundings so I can get present. And then stop telling myself all the bloody stories that I'm telling myself about all the people sitting on the other side of the camera. You know, there were times, Kev, you know, when I was doing investigative journalism in South Africa, where I was in the middle of Sandton Square at lunchtime, and the place was heaving. It was so packed. And the cameraman would say to me, and my producer would say, okay, so we want you to walk from here through to here in the middle of everybody here, and we want you to deliver your lines and then stop when you get to this mark. And at first I was like, I'm sorry, what? You want me to do what? And so, you know, granted, it took me a couple of takes. I'll be dead honest with that. But the way that I got through that was screening out everybody who was around there and focusing on communicating through the lens. And it's not just looking at the camera and letting my energy stop when I look at the camera. It's like, how do I connect and send my intentionality through the lens to be able to connect with somebody on the other side?
It's such a beautiful, I remember you being on Carte Blanche, and, you know, being an investigative journalist. I mean, don't you want to just touch briefly on that? Was it something you really loved? Because, I mean, everybody knows that you were on screen and doing that, and everyone always tuned in there, and they still tuned into Carte Blanche. Was that fun? Was it something you loved? Was it difficult?
Kevin, you know what? It's, I mean, Carte Blanche is an institution. They've been going now for, I mean, I think I've lost track how many years they've actually been going. And the work that they continue to do in South Africa is so important. And it was honestly one of the highlights of my life. You know, being able to be a part of some of the best journalists in the world, and to tell some of the most important, sometimes really difficult, sometimes really scary stories, but also sometimes really amazing stories that we could be really proud of in South Africa as well. And so to be a part of that was just really exciting. Every single time I went on shoot, it was like, oh, what are we going to do now? And it was so different. And there was a whole different group of people that we were going to connect with. And, you know, I think it was really difficult sometimes as well, because some of the stories we told were really tough. They were really challenging. They were heartbreaking. And so, you know, oftentimes as a crew, we would go afterwards and we would sit and just have a good debrief and just go, wow, I mean, can you even believe that happened? But it was awesome, because when we go out as a crew, we're like a little family. Yeah. And so I became really close with a lot of people, and we would go out, and the people who stood, then it was just amazing. You know, it was this beautiful connection of sharing and caring and supporting people who somehow otherwise might not have had a voice for themselves.
So, I mean, for those who don't know, you now live in New Zealand. In itself, you know, part of lifetime coaching is really giving people advice and and sharing some useful tips and tricks like you are. How was that transition for you? You had a really successful career in South Africa. You moved to a whole new country. You started doing what you did. How do you do that? How do you go from doing what you do here to there, and sort of just, you arrive in a brand new, it's like moving to a new planet. It's like, okay, here I am. How do I do this? What did you do? I'm so intrigued to know how you gather yourself to do that.
Oh, Kevin, many cups of coffee. And you know what? It was one of the things I really admire about someone like Madonna is how many times in her life she's gone and reinvented herself. Say what we will about the end days or whatever it was, but one thing she did really, really well in her career is reinvent herself. And moving to a new country, I can assure you, is not for sissies. It has its own set of challenges. I was very fortunate to have some family here that when I moved over, I had a soft landing, but I literally arrived here. I knew my parents and one other person in the entire country. So it was really new. And there were times that it was daunting. But if there's one thing that is a universal truth between countries, it's that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I think one of the things that's really been most important for me in my learning and in my journey here in New Zealand is slowly but surely starting to grow my networks and build relationships. Because I tell you what, New Zealand is a very different country to South Africa. South Africans, we've got a bit of a rep being quite bolshy and quite direct. And, which it works in South Africa. Excuse me, but coming over here, it is different. It's kind of like, it's a dating game, I think. It's kind of like, first you gotta, just kind of feel the waters. Hey, how's it going? And then you kind of like, hey, it was great to see you, meet you. And slowly but surely, can we have a coffee? And, did you enjoy that? And then slowly but surely we carry on. So, and as I've done that, Kevin, it's allowed me to slowly carve out a new path for myself. And then COVID hits, and so, it just reshuffles itself again. But I think that's what life's about, because who I am today is not who I was when I was back in South Africa, because the experiences that I've had have been so different. And I anticipate that who I'm going to be and who we all are going to be in a year's time. Can you imagine after COVID, when all of this has gone away, what life is going to be like, and how all of us will have changed because of the experiences that we've gone through. So honestly, I think it's been about doing my best to surround myself by amazing people with my support system. As I say, going out there, reaching out, building those relationships. And then the other thing is just taking risks, really putting myself out there and going and being absolutely terrified, because back in South Africa, I had a bit of a public profile. I was like, I blanched, the doors open. It was like pretty easy. And then I got here and they were like, I'm sorry, who? What? Who are you? And so I needed to learn how to kind of do things, and in a whole different country, in a whole new way. But it's been a blessing, because it's been an opportunity for me to develop parts of myself that perhaps otherwise I wouldn't have needed to. And in the process, I've met some pretty amazing people as well.
So I know that you, one of the things that you mentioned is about your storytelling. Tell us more about the storytelling.
Ooh. So storytelling is something that I realized has been something that I've been doing since I can actually remember. I was that annoying kid in school that used to pop my hand up every time there was an oral exam and go, oh, pick me, because I love the art of storytelling. And then getting into TV, presenting, and then I was telling other people's stories, and then I was telling other people's stories. And so what I realized was that for a lot of my life, I've been telling stories, but they've been telling a lot of other people's stories, and telling stories that perhaps weren't based or coming from my own sense of self and my own sense of truth. And so one thing that COVID has kind of done for me is it said to me, right, well, where's your voice? And what is your voice? And what is your story? And how do we get your voice and actually start putting it out there to the world? And that's why I've started #WaveOfLove, which is a 21-day challenge here in New Zealand, but it's all over the world. And it's an invitation to people to do one random act of kindness every single day for like 21 days. And the reason I started it is not for one particular movement, not one particular group or anything. It's, man, people around the world are having a tough time. And I reckon we could probably do with a bit of kindness and a bit of support and help with one another. And I'm not talking about standing like a Care Bear, sending these wonderful waves of love out of my chest. I'm talking literally taking action. And so while I started this journey of the 21-day challenge, we're now on day 11, I started doing little videos, and I realized that each and every one of those videos, there's 60 seconds, that each and every one of them is a story. And I started finding more in each of the stories. And so I've just, I think for me, I'm reinventing the way that I'm telling stories in a shorter form and changing the formula out like that, because I've done it before, but now it's a matter of how do we communicate, because we've got very short attention spans, right, in the world today on social media. So how do we tell a story, tell it really quickly and succinctly, and how do we get that message across with the most impact? Because it's not just about telling my story, Kevin. It's every single one of us, I believe, has a story, whether we are an individual or whether we are a brand, whether we are a company that has various products. We all have stories to tell. And today we don't sell products or services. We tell stories, and that allows us and enables people to connect with us, to build relationship with us, to build rapport with us. And at the end of the day, people will work with people they like, and they will work with people they trust. And so storytelling, I think, is just one of the most powerful mediums to be able to build that level of connection with people.
That's amazing. I mean, and that's also one of the things I love about the lunchtime coaching, is because on every person I speak to, they inevitably tell part of their story, or one of their clients they worked with, or something that's just, magnificent and happened in their world. But so to wrap up today's conversation, I wish we had more time. Can you leave us with some practical tips on being live on camera, connecting with people? Just maybe give us 3 tips that we could leave with today, and then tell us where we can get hold of you if anybody wants to chat to you about anything.
Awesome. Well, the first thing I would say about connecting on camera is be authentic. I think there are a lot of people who, I want to be like Brene Brown, or I want to be like this person, or be like that person. And the camera is a very, very honest medium. It does not lie. Like it's right there in our face. And so, as I said before, find time to really ground yourself and to connect with your own self before then allowing yourself to connect through the lens with people who are on the other end. The other thing about being on camera is it is super important to make sure that we are lit well, that we've got great sound, and that the video quality is good. Because if it sounds terrible, people are lazy. They don't want to have to work hard to hear what we have to say, because if they've got to work hard for me, they'll just go find somebody else who they don't have to work hard for. So I'll give you an example quickly here. I've got this light here. So if I turn that off, that's kind of the difference. So I've got this tiny little light here that I pop on, and all of a sudden you can see me. And now it's easy. And it's easier for us to connect. So, lighting is really important. I'm happy to share with Kevin. I'm just using a normal lavalier light microphone that plugs into my mobile phone, which I'm using as a camera. And you can pick up one of these. I don't know how much it is in rands, but you can pick one up for about $20. So maybe 200 rand. So one of these. And if you don't have that, even just your AirPods or your normal wired earphones as well are really important. I know that those are probably some basic tips that people can use when it comes to connecting on camera, but I think probably those are the most important. And just be aware as well. This is number 4, and then I'm done here. But the other one is, just be careful of when we're making big gestures, because the camera, as you can see, is really it accentuates everything. So from our facial expressions to everything that we do here. So do our best to kind of just minimize it a bit more and just keep it a bit more smoother when we're having conversations. And as for people getting in touch with me, you're really welcome to connect with me on any of my social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, just look up Bonita Nuttall. Also on Instagram. You can follow my YouTube channel as well if you want to check out some of the #Wave of Love stuff. Please feel free to still hop on if you want to, because the 20-day challenge is still going. You can join anytime. And I'd love to hear what you guys do as well if you do join. So, yeah.
Thank you, Bonita. That was amazing. And thank you for sharing. And They can find you, as you mentioned, on your social media, and all of that information is going to be in the description box below. So if they want to chat or click on a link, or I will put it in the description box below. It will be on YouTube and shared all over Facebook and LinkedIn and all the necessary platforms. Thank you for joining me today. And I just want to leave us with the last quote for today. Never let anyone tell you that your standards are too high. There is nothing wrong with wanting the best for yourself. Thank you so much, Bonita. Have a wonderful day. And I'll see you online again.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Kevin. I just wanted to say thank you for having me here as well. And thank you to everyone out there. Lots of strength during the rest of this time, and keep telling your stories. Thanks so much.
Ciao.
Bye.